Hello. Today I'm going to be discussing the Cold War and two aspects of it and um how they played in the Cold War and how they play now. I picked NATO and fear-mongering. So NATO started the signing of the Washington Treaty and the formation of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, started in 1949. The two worked together as NATO was made up of pieces of the Washington Treaty. It's a security alliance between 32 countries spanning from North America to Europe. It began to feel like a necessity when World War II, when there was a potential Soviet invasion of Western Europe. So, NATO plays into the Cold War in this way. When NATO was first formed, it included 12 countries. The first 20 or so years of the Cold War are some of the darkest times, marked by a major fluctuation period in geopolitical relations between the East and West. On the positive side for NATO, it was a vital mission during that period. That can be seen after the invasion of Hungary in 1965, wherein the USSR had to suppress popular anti-communist uprisings, so it invaded its own satellite nation. When this happened, the alliance was occupied with concerns about the premier at the time. NATO was just not ready to deal with the amount of political change and military engagements. So the Cuban Missile Crisis happened in 1962 of October, which changed this prospect, though. This is where NATO really took off. NATO supported America in this crisis by giving an increase in maritime and air patrol duties. The Cuban Missile Crisis peacefully ended, allowing NATO to examine its effectiveness and exercise its ability to respond to Soviet issues better. In the latter part of the Cold War, there were certainly fewer geopolitical tensions between NATO and the Soviet Union, when in 1960s Leonid Brezhnev, sorry if I'm not saying that right, came to power. In 1968, the USSR invaded Czechoslovakia, but NATO couldn't do nothing about it, as they are not allowed to intervene in the sovereignty of a non-member. So even though the US and USSR reduced their overall stockpiles after the Strategic Arms Limitation Treaty in the 1770s, the alliance put most of its time into fielding new types of nuclear weapons. NATO was advancing, and the USSR fell drastically behind. The USSR's economy was straining so hard that it almost collapsed. So NATO restored peace, and its goal of ending the chance of World War III was fulfilled for now. NATO appears today in this way. NATO has 32 members now, and we see the collective alliances being a major part of political life today. Everyone feels like they have to pick a side, and that is probably not only America, but other countries. I do want to note that how I'm explaining this. Yes, I understand that NATO is not seen as much in political ways today, but I think certain aspects of NATO, their goals, I think are seen today a lot. NATO has grown a lot, and hopefully will take on some sense of continuation. America still holds the role as the leader of NATO and has put a lot of money into the group. NATO has seen agreements, disagreements, and plenty of crisis, but none has destroyed the alliance. NATO is held strong by two key points that haven't changed: the peace and prosperity of Europe and the peace and prosperity of the North Atlantic region. Alliances are a major part of life. Friend groups, organizations, political parties, they took up our lives. I know NATO didn't create alliances or create the ability to find common ground, but I like to believe it helped in more than political issues. Now, fear-mongering in the Cold War. Approximately in 1947-1991, that marked a period of extreme fear-mongering. Things like McCarthyism, the Red Scare, and duck and cover. These are all important aspects of brutality of fear-mongering, but for this, I will focus on McCarthyism. McCarthyism is the practice of accusing political or government advisors of political disloyalty, whether it was rightfully done or not. They would use methods that were not done appropriately to persecute them. Most of the accusations came from a man named Joseph McCarthy himself. People being disloyal and getting accused is pretty average, especially in the United States. This period is the period of 1950 to 1994 was a period of deep suspicion, and also it is known as the Second Red Scare. Congress believed that communism was an active party loyal to foreign powers, and although some were, many innocent people got convicted for doing things they did not do. Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were killed for just the spreading of certain either true or false issues. So, yeah. Fear-mongering today. So, in a world full of social media in general, the news, movies, they constantly depict and renew fear in our lives. Every morning, people can wake up to find breaking news, and you never know whether it's true or not. It's a game, and not a fun one. That's a simple way that fear-mongering exists today. But there's also fear-mongering within deep issues. Politicians will tell you that if you don't believe or follow this belief, something bad will happen. If you don't support this cause, the world itself will collapse. How can we believe this stuff when sometimes there's no evidence? Sometimes it seems like all the information we get isn't true. Or worse than that, they're portraying it in a simple light, even if it is detrimental. Now, to answer the question, are we repeating the Cold War itself, or are we repeating Cold War habits in a different global context? I think that we're repeating Cold War habits in a different global context. Aspects such as fear-mongering NATO are still present today, just in different ways. Although NATO isn't as present in the political area, mostly because we are at a relatively peaceful place right now, we can find parts of NATO in society, supporting each other no matter what you believe is right. To find a common ground and forget about issues that are important for the peace of the world. Maybe not the peace of the world, but in simple ways. Simple everyday life. The support of a family member, even if you don't believe anything they believe, or everything they believe. Fear-mongering is present today in totally different ways. I would tend to say that fear-mongering is at its worst right now. The use of media has certainly made fear-mongering seem somewhat normal. Anyway, thank you for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.